Hell Let Loose has had a bit of a rough time lately with the not really well received updates, with the sprint speed increase and the British faction coming into the game. And then there was the update 15 trailer, which was disastrous. And then planned also coming with update 15 was the objective mode, the smaller scale mode, which a lot of people were not looking forward to, thinking that this mode would turn the game into something like Call of Duty, which I completely disagree with, but we'll get onto the objective mode a little bit later in the video. And the devs have just put out a new developer briefing, number 191, and it seems like they're taking a positive step forward. And there's going to be a lot of different changes, big changes really, that are going to happen for this year and potentially for Hell Let Loose as a whole game or franchise going forward. So to start with, the big 2023 roadmap that they initially announced a few months ago, I think we can consider that being thrown out the window, because their main focus for 2023 is now going to be trying to fix issues that have been in the game for a very long time and issues that get raised by the players. So the 2023 roadmap isn't really valid anymore, because they've said they are going to change their focus to a slower speed of content delivery, which will actually include more 100 player maps for the warfare and the offensive modes with cosmetic DLC, but really their focus is going to be delivering more patches, which will just be fixes rather than big content updates. And with that, before update 15 releases, we're going to get two patches, 14.2 and 14.3. So what's going to come in patch 14.2? Well, the big thing is the removal of the sprint speed increase and the removal of the dive to prone function, which is a big thing. This is the devs kind of admitting that the sprint speed increase and the dive to prone thing doesn't work in the game, and they're going back to the drawing board. But before they just rip the sprint speed and dive to prone out, they are going to put a PTE, which is going to be on the 20th of July. PTE is a PC only testing environment, which gladly they are bringing PTEs back to test changes and fixes to Hell Let Loose before just putting out a new patch or an update without, actually testing it. For me, I think increasing the sprint speed was a good thing. It was probably just a bit too fast, and I think they needed to add in inertia as well, which pretty much will give your character weight, so you can't just quickly, spin left and spin right and quickly change direction. You would have to take a little bit of time for your character, like your player model, to actually change direction. A great implementation of this can be seen in Escape from Tarkov. That game used to have no inertia, but then they put inertia in to stop people like spam strafing left and right to dodge bullets. I think what the devs are going to plan to do with sprint speed is, take it away, have a look at the whole game and how increasing the sprint speed will change, any other component or factor of Hell Let Loose, which includes vehicles, because people will be able to keep up with tanks and get satchels on a little bit easier, stuff like that. So I think they're going to look at the wider game before putting in certain changes to the game, but also using the PTEs to test them first with the players. The plan for update 15 was the objective game mode with the breakcore map, which really is seen in episode 2 of Band of Brothers, where Easy Company go down into the breakcore manor, down the trench line, and destroy the gun emplacements at breakcore manor. This game mode and the map is going to be put back. It's not going to release with update 15. Like the dev said earlier in the dev briefing, they are going to be focusing more on fixes. And before this game mode gets released, there will be a PTE for it to get players' feedback on how the game actually plays and how the map is. So I think, again, that's good. I was looking forward to this mode, but I know many people weren't, and I think releasing it with one map isn't a good thing, especially for the PC side, because people will have to have separate servers which are community managed and community paid for to have this mode and one single map running. I think the objective mode needs to launch with 2 maps at least. Now onto the British Forces. Now the British Forces update, it wasn't as impactful as the players would like and the developers would have liked. There's a lot of historical inaccuracies, a lot of other issues that launched with the British, including many of their weapons just being flat out broken. And what the devs are going to be looking at is introducing more historically accurate weapons and uniforms, such as the desert uniforms, which really should have been launched with the British faction because there's the desert map. It just it blows my mind really that we didn't get desert camo with a desert map, the first desert map. But another thing they're looking at for the British forces is reworking and tweaking firearms, such as the Bren gun. They don't specifically say that they're going to be looking at the potential use of a bipod for the Bren gun, but I think they're implying that they might activate the use of the bipod. They're also going to be looking at weapon sway a little bit more. Bolt handle animations are going to be looked at because this currently incorrect for the British forces because they use the bolt on the Lee Enfield differently to how, say, the Germans would use it. And they also mention the weapon fire rate, and I'm assuming for that they're really pointing towards the Lee Enfield because the British were trained to fire quite rapidly with the Lee Enfield. So maybe they're going to be bringing that in for the British. I know many people will want that, including myself. And these changes could come in with patch 14.3, but again, they've said a PTE will be held before the patch is released. Also arriving in patch 14.3 will be a reworked field manual, and they're taking inspiration from Churchill's War Room, and it's going to be, they've said, a new scene, which is going to be basically including like video tutorials to help people get into the game a bit more. And I just hope these video tutorials aren't just the little GIFs that are currently in the manual right now. I hope they create kind of not super in-depth videos, but videos that give enough information to players about getting into the game, including things of like spawning and garrison control and map control, anything like that. Also, the firing range is going to arrive in patch 14.3. Now, the firing range is going to be a basic implementation of it at first, and it's only going to be available for the US forces, but it's a start, and hopefully it doesn't take too long before the other forces can use a firing range. They don't need to make like a faction specific firing range. They don't need to do like that much. Just pretty much let us choose whatever weapon we want to use at the firing range, or have all forces available to be selected, something like that. We don't need like a desert firing range for the British and a Russian based firing range for the Soviets. Just that one firing range would be fine. Another controversial thing that was announced in the roadmap was the in-game store. Now, they never really said anything about what this was going to be, but they have mentioned here is that the store will never have pay-to-win items or non-historical cosmetics that break immersion, which is a really good thing. We want historically accurate stuff. So that is another good thing that they've clarified here. And then they also just clarify that again, patch 14.3 will predominantly focus on bug fixing, and they list some of the bugs here: the in-game stuttering, Panther reload speed, the Sherman Firefly frontal damage, though nothing about the Sherman Firefly, how it actually controls, because tank players will know that it uses a control scheme of the tanks that's like a few years old, that was completely erased with an update with all the tanks of how they control now, apart from the Firefly. It's a bit weird, but I think the Firefly needs to be changed. Also, the British gun sights are going to get looked at, the sway, the British weapon fire rate, the bolt animation, and the zeroing. Also, another thing is the doubled explosion visual effects. And now this is when you're looking at an explosion, say a tank's blown up, and you'll see this like flickering of the explosion. That should be fixed. Ultra widescreen support, the server's missing from the server browser, and for the Xbox, it says specifically missing weapon audio. Now onto the loadout bug. The devs have said that they are still struggling to get a 100% reproduction of this bug, and they need to be able to fully reproduce the bug every time so they know what's causing the bug so they can fix it. There was a time where if you was idle in like the deploy screen, that would cause the loadout bug to happen, but that's not a 100% like every time that will actually happen to you. So they're still struggling to identify the issue for it. But they have mentioned that with the new game analytics that they've put into the game, along with a change in their build process, it should help them to identify what's actually causing the bug a little bit easier. And also, the grenade bug. We all know what the grenade bug is. They think they found 100% reproduction for this bug, and a potential fix for it will be in the PTE for patch 14.2. Now, some bad news for console players. The console server browser, there is still no ETA on this. They've pretty much said that with how the console servers were set up, it's completely different, and it was never designed in a way really to have a server browser. So they are still looking at it, but really there's no ETA, and I think it will never come in Hell Let Loose 1. But also some good news for everyone. In patch 14.3, we're getting a new night map, a variant of Sainte Marie de Mont, which is a really good map. Not everyone likes it. I really like it, so it's good to get a night variant for it. And then just a short word on some PC server performance testing that they've been doing. Some community ran servers have been running slightly different, like back-end code pretty much, which has led to increased performance for those servers, I believe. So that should end up rolling out across the board, I guess, at some point, which will make PC servers a little bit better. And they've also found the issue of what's causing a lot of stuttering in the servers, but they are looking at what fixes they can do for that. It's a lot of actual development wording they're putting in here, so I'm not going to bother talking about it. They've just pretty much found what's causing it, and they're looking at a fix. So while this dev update has pretty much changed the whole course of the development year for Hell Let Loose, I think that's going to have a massive knock-on effect for the rest of their original plan, where it's going to be 1 year for each year of the war. I think we can consider that gone now. I don't think they're ever going to be able to stick to that. And towards the end of the war, there's a lot of major battles that happen, and I think that was maybe overlooked by the devs, because if we take into account the Pacific, think of how many extra maps people want from the Pacific, but there's also all the other theaters where all the other battles are happening during the same time period. So I think the whole 1 year to the year of the war, I think that's out the window. The devs haven't said that, but I think it's probably safe to assume that. Do I think it's a good thing? Well, as long as the content that comes out is actually well made, then yes, I think everyone would rather have like good content that's released slowly, that doesn't have any issues, rather than quicker content that has more issues. Because if your base game is really good, then it doesn't really matter that content will slowly come out for it, because people will love the base game. And there's games that have been played for years and years that barely get any content, and yeah, they're still being played today, which really shows that if your core gameplay loop is great, then it will always be great. So let me know what you think about this developer update down in the comments below. For me, I think it's a positive one. It shows the devs are sort of taking a step back and looking at the overall picture instead of just quick little hit fixes they can just chuck in here and there to try and just change or fix the game, which I think we can consider the sprint speed was just this quick random thing that was thrown in. They're taking that away, and they're going to look at the overall picture before trying to do something in the future, which is a good thing. We need to look at something like Squad. If you don't know, Squad has been doing a big infantry overhaul, changing how the weapons work and sway and the scopes, a lot of stuff to do with the infantry. They haven't just put that into the game. They've had 3 separate PTEs so far on this infantry overhaul. They put the first one out, made some tweaks for the second one, made more tweaks for the third one, and I'm guessing they're going to be having a few more PTEs as well, and that is something that the Hell Let Loose devs should do. So give this video a like if you liked it, dislike if you didn't, subscribe for more, and thank you for watching.